Hey guys, Brett here, and today's Tech Tip Tuesday is going to be on boost control solenoids. If you look back, we made a video about setting up a boost controller with CO2, the kit that we offer, and everything available. And recently this year, we've come out with a new Mac valve setup, a dual valve in one billet block, and we're going to talk about the function of this compared to the older standard style Mac valve. This was really a big eye-opener for us and me. I knew that these solenoids were faster. I've ran them on my car for a long time. We went to develop this mounting system for them to make it easy for everyone to use, and I did the testing. I was shocked. 0.2 of a second is kind of nutty to think about when you're trying to go every tenth of a second. If you're stuck 7.0 and you're trying to go 690, you're looking for 1/10. This is 0.2 of boost control. Okay, so for your boost controller system, you guys are all familiar with Mac valves. Before you had CO2, you started with a standard 3-port Mac valve where you ran a 4-port on high boost applications, and then you moved into the CO2 system and you ran dual Mac valves, one being an increased solenoid and one being a decreased solenoid, where the ECU is controlling the pressure that you command on top of the wastegate. These systems work great. We make this bracket. This kit is available on our website. These valves are inexpensive. They're pretty reliable. The issue that we found with these valves is they're pretty slow. So we've adapted the bullet style Mac valve, which the valve is up here, the electric solenoid, into this billet block that we made. Has a nice mounting option, has dual outlets, so you don't have to run a T if you don't want to. It's very nice packaging. It clearly is prettier than the other one, depending on your engine bay setup. But the main advantage that a lot of people don't know with this style valve is the speed of the valve. Not only is the solenoid faster, but the way the mechanism lifts instead of pushes open, it will fill your wastegates faster. So when it comes to control and in your race car, we're dividing up our drag racing run in tenths of a second, in hundredths of a second, looking for every increase or incremental improvement that we can get. So when I command 60 pounds of CO2 on my wastegate at 0.02 seconds, we want the CO2 to be there at 0.02 seconds. What we'll show you here as our setup is how much faster this is to achieve that than this. I've ran multiple tests and I've found up to 0.25 seconds faster with the dual Mac valve setup than the individual Mac valve setup. So that's 0.2 of a second that the CO2 is there. So if you're looking at your run and you're not really reading your data log and seeing, you're just looking at a boost pressure, oh, I got 50 pounds of boost in 1 second, but really you wanted 50 pounds of boost in 0.8 seconds, so now you're kind of chasing that number around. This is going to get you there more precisely and more accurately. All right, another point we want to bring up with fittings on boost control systems, honestly, anywhere in your race car. If you followed anything, you know I don't like Teflon tape that belongs in the house or in an industrial job, not in a race car. We use Loctite thread locker. They make it for NPT sealing, or if you have blue Loctite or red Loctite, it works the same way. You're going to put a dab of this on the threads to any of the fittings into a pipe thread that's going to seal the thread. The issue with any air system is any contaminant. This is a valve, a physical valve that moves up and down. So a small particle, similar like if you had a nitrous solenoid, you know it needs to be a clean line. Tape will get in, will plug this valve, it's going to stick your wastegate shut, and you're going to have a bad day. So we'll talk about mounting this real quick. So when you're picking a spot to mount this Mac valve, you want to think of a couple things in mind. First of all, you want a spot that's going to not get a lot of water ingest if you're driving down the road. If this is a drag and drive car, these valves do have a vent on the side where when it's achieving its pressure, it vents CO2 out. So we don't want to fill that with water. These will withstand water. You can submerge them, they're going to work, but over time, you're going to get corrosion, and from dirt from the road is going to stick to the water. So the water isn't the problem, but the things it brings along with it will be a problem. So you want to try to find a pretty dry place for these, and then I like to mount these as close to the gates as possible, because like we were saying, we're trying to, when we want the wastegate pressure there, we want it there right then. If this is mounted up in the car and then we have 10 feet of CO2 line, when this valve opens, it then has to fill the line to get to the wastegate. So you want to get this in a pretty safe spot in your engine bay, in your turbo system, not too close to direct heat, where it's going to be safe, but as close to the wastegates as possible. And then you can kind of run a T like we did here, or with this, we have 2 outlets. You can run one line to one gate and the other line to the other gate, kind of up to you at that point. When you do plumb this system, like we were talking about the Loctite and the thread sealer, another thing you want to do is to give the line a little vent. If you're using steel braided line or if you're using push lock line, pieces of this can fall over when you cut it. You want to crack the bottle, blow it out before you plug it in, make sure we don't get any dirt or shrapnel into the valves. So we talked about the response time of these valves. Not only is that important on the beginning of the run when we're bringing boost in, but it's also important on say a no prep surface or a run that you have to pedal the car, like I had to do it in Texas, you need the boost to the CO2 to vent off quickly and then be back as fast as possible so you have the best response time out of your turbo system. All these things take a little time to operate, the wastegates do, so we need to get the CO2 on top of the gate as quick as possible. On any MAC valve system, they're rated to 150 PSI max. We claim them at 120. Most CO2 systems are going to be ran at 100 PSI. Some applications you need more than that on the gate. You can up it some, but 100 PSI is a good starting point for fast response and good control. Another feature that we have on our MAC valves is they actually do have LED indicators on the top. These will light up when the valves are activated from your ECU, so if you're testing circuits, you can see right away if it's getting power. These do have a red and a black wire on them, so unlike these, it does matter which one gets power and which one gets ground because of the LED. So you can wire these up either way you like. If you like to send constant 12 volt to the valve and then cycle the valves with a low side through your controller, or if you want to supply them with ground and then cycle them with a high side through your controller, they'll work the same either way, doesn't matter. After you get your car wired up and you're going through your test, the LEDs are nice. You cycle it, you can make sure your increased solenoid is getting power when it's supposed to and your decrease, so it makes for a quick and easy diagnosis. We've been starting to put these on a lot of our products. As you can see on our RIFE 5-volt box here, we have LEDs to show you faults in the front. It's just for a quick check. So if you're at the track, you're in between rounds, you want to go grab your voltmeter and unplug everything, you just be like, all right, that's bad, let me dig further into it. All right, so on the table here, I have basically a small simulation of your race car. We have a Fueltech FT600. We have it wired right now to control boost off of throttle position. So we have our Icon throttle body here with TPS sensor on the side. Wastegate pressure sensor, because this is how the system works in closed loop. Because remember, with CO2 system, you're targeting a wastegate pressure, not a manifold pressure. So you'll need to know what numbers works for your car there. So our wastegate pressure sensor in here. All right, so while we have this laid out on the table, I wanted to highlight another thing that we have here is we have our DTM sensor hub. So what this does is we have one input into the ECU. I'll plug it here so that way you guys can see it easier. There's no sensor. One input to the ECU to get 4 sensor outputs at any point. These make wiring really nice and expansion really nice. You can put these towards the front of the vehicle or for the rear of the vehicle and run any 5-volt sensor off of this. Each plug is powered with 5 volts, ground, and the sensor signal back to the ECU. So on the wiring side in, it takes one 6-pin connector. 4 of them are going to be our sensor signal wires back to the ECU, one 0 volt from the ECU and one 5 volt. The 5 volt and 0 volt are split in the box, so it's nice. You have no splices. Like I said, wiring is super easy with this. And then in this case, say we only have 2 sensors on our system right now, we have 2 open. So now in the future, if we want now I want to run a pressure sensor before the charge pipe, you can add one in. You don't have to rewire the car and get to the ECU. You just put these outputs in your pin out and you always know what it needs to be. If you need to switch outputs, you can do it pretty simple. Another item we have on the table is the RIFE 5-volt box. So we do have a video on this if you're curious about it, but the quick rundown, what this box does is it takes our 5-volt signal from the ECU, it mimics it over 4 channels, and then isolates each channel independently from each other. So if you have a failure on one channel, it's not going to take down all of your sensors. The channel will then go red, the other channels will still continue to function. So if you have a pressure sensor go bad here, it's not going to take out your crank sensor, it's not going to take out your map sensor, everything else in the system is going to work. And this also amplifies the 5-volt signal. A lot of ECUs have 100 milliamps possible output of a single 5-volt. If you have a car that's fully sensored out, 100 milliamps isn't enough. When you start to draw that voltage down, your sensors aren't going to read correctly, and your ECU is going to make adjustments off incorrect readings, and again, you're going to have a bad day. So this keeps our 5-volt strong to all the sensors. Your signal is going to be better, your data is going to be cleaner, and each sensor is going to be protected on its own channel. On the 5-volt sensor, even if your ECU has multiple 5-volt outputs, a lot of them are shared on the same amplifier internally. So if one sensor goes bad on one input, it's going to take down the other output. This is true isolation across 4 channels. All right, so I'm going to cycle through it a few times. We have it here on the screen. We have wastegate target pressure and wastegate actual pressure and throttle percentage. I'm going to start off with here. Now remember, right now, data log, we'll pull the laptop up so you guys can, we can show you exactly how fast it was, and I have screenshots from the other testing because you're not going to be able to see that in real time because we're looking for tenths of a second. But this is basically it. We're going to go full throttle. Make sure you turn your CO2 on. We just talked about this the other day. You're going to lose a race because of that. On this system, we have diagrams on our website that we sell with this fitting kit. So if you are using this MAC valve setup, we have pressure from our CO2 bottle in, and then this is our output line to our wastegate. This solenoid is going to vent off the unneeded pressure onto the side. On the dual valve, These are labeled, so there's a little more foolproof than what I just did there. Inlet is the inlet to the valve system coming from our CO2 reference, and then outlet is to your wastegate. Again, a single outlet, or you can run two. You just make sure you're gonna have to plug the other side if you don't use one. All right, so now I'm gonna cycle. We'll go wide open throttle on this. You'll see the ECU ask for 60 pounds of CO2. At that point, the valves are gonna activate to fill the wastegates. Has the 60 pounds, I'm holding the throttle, so it's still holding. And then now I'm gonna go ahead and switch it over to the dual valve so you guys can watch that in action. All right, now the dual valve set up. Again, floor it, we get our pressure, and then down. I can hear that it was quicker. We've compared multiple data logs doing this, and every time this system fills it a lot faster. Now, when you're running this and you are doing your testing, they get a faint signal. You saw the light flash there. Sometimes these lights will be faint because this thing sends such a small pulse width to the sensor. So if you want to see it light up bright, you'll have to do a manual test. All right, we're going to take a look at the data log from this. But again, guys, I can't stress you enough. If you're serious about your program, you have a car, you're looking for every 100th of a second, tenths of a second are huge. I can't imagine, we're looking at the third number of every increment of the racetrack with my car. I can't imagine going back and having boost control that was 2/10 behind of what we were actually trying to do. Again, these aren't a bad product. We've been selling them forever. They work, but if you're looking to get the most out of your combination and the most control over your system and the most data, this is the way to go. So we're gonna pull the data log out of the ECU on that one and compare the graphs. Again, you'll see the ramp just a lot faster on this. When you command it to happen, it's going to happen. All right, so you guys can see this here. We have the data log pulled up here. This square line is our commanded CO2. So we went wide open throttle. This guy shot up, commanded 60 psi. The system then started to react to open the increase valve, and then the valve opened, and then the air filled the system. Now, all these inherently are going to take time to fill the system. The wastegates, depending on how big your diaphragm is, depending how long your lines are, depending how large your line is, if it needs time to fill, if you're using a 4AN instead of a 1/4 inch line or something like that. So, this guy started opening the increase at 51.6. It finally got the target out here at, a little over 52 seconds. So we call that 4/10 of a second. So almost a half a second to go from 0 to here is a pretty long time. And the dual valve solenoid, that was the standard MAC valve. It was this one here. You can see this line is a lot more straight up already, right? So we called for this out here. It opened the solenoid, by 2/10 of a second. So now we have, 60 psi in the gate. So half the amount of time to fill that. We have better control, accurate control, holds nice and strong. I've ran this test a bunch of times. The proof is here in the data. There's no arguing it. If you want the best possible solenoid on your car and the fastest reacting system, the dual valve setup is superior.